What's up, football heads? Welcome back to that show. As always, I am your host, Kyle McQueen, back on another Monday. We'll know pretty soon if it's a victory Monday or not, but I'm here in parts unknown for the holidays, and I'm going to try and blow through the entire Sunday slate today just because my Vikings haven't played, so I don't have to go on my 30-minute diatribe on this episode, which will be on Let Me Talk to You Tuesday tomorrow. And I teased it a couple times last week that I want to dive into the ESPN playoff machine once we're done with tonight's games. 3 weeks left in the entire season, so it feels like a good time. Some shakeups this week. It'll be a good time to take a look. I mean, I've been taking a look at the schedule down the stretch, as you guys know, but to get into it in the machine, plug some things in, play out some scenarios, see how that goes. So that'll be part two tomorrow on a Let Me Talk to You Tuesday. But here today on what should become a Victory Monday, we're going to start with Thursday Night Football. Last week, Rams 49ers, huge game. Rams looking to continue the momentum off of that big win against the Bills the week before. Niners clinging to the faint playoff hopes. If they lose, they're out, more or less. And as you guys well know, they lost. Rams won. Very boring game. And listen, this is coming from me. I love a good defensive struggle. I mean love a good Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens 6-3 matchup. Can't get enough of it. But this game, incredibly boring to watch. Incredibly boring to watch. I don't know what it is. Maybe because the Rams, they got all the high powered offensive weapons. The Niners usually have the high powered weapons. Obviously, they got a lot of injuries this season, but 12-6 Rams. They get it done. They go to 8-6, drop the Niners to 6-8. It's going to take nothing short of a miracle for them to pull this off. So they got a chance. It's just not a very good chance. And just a not great game. I mean, the Rams pounded the rock. Kyron Williams had 29 carries for 108 yards, only averaging less than 4 yards a carry in a 100-yard game. It's just commitment to the run, which I did talk about that they should stay committed to the run because the Niners defense, despite all the injuries across the board, not to be slept on. Matt Stafford, 16 for 27, 160 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but no touchdowns. Let's see if he had any fumbles. Did not. So a clean game, just a overall wildly unspectacular game. Puka doing what Puka does, 7 catches for 97 yards. Cooper Kupp held without a catch, though. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the playoffs in fantasy football lamenting that fact. But Niners, I mean, Brock Purdy, 14 for 31. These are Anthony Richardson numbers, 142 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. Isaac Guerrero, 16 carries, 57 yards, about 3.5 yards per carry. Kittle, 4 grabs for 61. And everyone else beyond that was just markedly unexceptional. This is not a stats game, or was not a stats game, but Rams, 3 straight field goal drives to end the game to pull out the win. Headed into the fourth, they were down 6-3. Just not great ball, some sloppy ball from the 49ers. They don't get it done. The Rams defense does what they can do against a battered, riddled with injuries 49ers team. Rams get it done, and whoever this guy is or girl running the FanDuel Instagram account, they're at it again. Are the Rams the hottest team in football? They're hot. Don't get me wrong. They're 8-6. They've been on a roll. But are they the hottest team in football? No, they're not. The Eagles won 10 straight. The Vikings have won, 6 straight. How many other teams are hot? Detroit, until they lost, and this post was before Detroit lost. Detroit had won, 11 straight. Rams, hot team. You could say one of the hottest teams in football. But let's not get carried away. The hottest team in football. It's ridiculous. But the Rams, I will say, Stafford, when he's at his peak, we know what he's capable of. You got Puka Nakua, you got Cooper Kupp, you got Kyron Williams. It's a team. It's a cliche, but it's a team. You don't want to play them in the playoffs because they got the experience. They've been to the Super Bowl. I mean, not a lot of these players on this team weren't on the Super Bowl team, but the brain trust, your McVay, Stafford, Cooper Kupp, they've been there. They know what it's going to take. A lot of these guys were in the playoffs last year, so good win for the Rams. Very boring, unspectacular game, I have to say. Um, but they get a win. They get a needed win. The Seahawks lost. We'll get to that later. So the Rams are now tied at the top of the division. Geno injured. Again, we'll get to that. But I think you got to look at that and say, well, could be the Rams division to lose. It could be the Rams division to lose. And I think when we get to the Bucs game and we talk about the Bucs, they're kind of the same deal. When you look at these divisions, you look at the NFC. Who are the 7 best teams in the NFC? Detroit, Philly, Minnesota, Green Bay, the Commanders, and then probably the Rams and the Bucs. So I've been pounding the table for the Bucs for a while. I not pounding the table for the Rams, but it's been that week to week. Like, can they get it going? Can they keep it rocking and rolling, or will they keep this like win and then lose, win and then lose? But they're winning now. They're stringing together wins, and they're stringing together wins at the right time of the season. So the Rams have put themselves in a great position. When I look at the Rams, when I watch the Rams, despite how bad this game was, I do feel like they're a better team and they're a better threat than the Seahawks because I still can't figure the Seahawks out. And that could just be on me. But again, they lose and they lose decisively to Green Bay. And again, we'll get to that when we get to Sunday Night Football. But I don't know. Feels like the Rams division to win. Move on to the Sunday slate, the 1 p.m. games. 6-8 Cowboys, now 6-8 Cowboys throttle the Panthers. They fall to 3-11, 30-14. No real reason to waste too much time on this game. Cooper Rush throws 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 18 for 29, 214, but again, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Rico Dowdle continues his nice little pace that he's been on, 25 carries, 149 yards, almost 6 yards a carry. I think both Caesar and I picked the Cowboys in this game, and this is what I talked about: is if they can continue running the ball, because the Panthers are atrocious stopping the run throughout this season. I feel like they've gotten a little bit better in this recent stretch, but shows up again here. Rico Dowdle, almost 150 yards on the ground. CD Lamb, 9 catches, 116 and a touchdown. And Bryce Young back to playing not great football. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 19 for 28, 219. No commitment to the run. Chuba Hubbard, 10 carries for 32 yards. Mike Boone, former Viking, 2 carries for 14. Bryce Young, 3 for 12. Xavier Legette, 1 for 2. So 28 pass attempts to, 13 carries for your running backs or receivers, and then the 3 scrambles for Bryce Young. It's just not going to get it done. It's not like the Cowboys defense is playing in peak form like we've seen them in the last few years. They got a ton of talent, but they're not playing like all-world football. But they just choose not to run the ball, and it is what it is. You're going to lose games if you don't run the fucking football. That's life. There's not much more to talk about with this game. Again, neither one of these teams is going to make the playoffs. Panthers starting to fall off a little bit, and I don't know. I still think they're going to play spoiler to somebody by the end of this season. It is what it is, but Cowboys, too little, too late. But they're 6-8. We'll see 7 wins, 8 wins. Maybe they eke out 9 wins. Probably not, but we'll see how that goes. Moving on, the Chiefs and the Browns. Chiefs win. Everyone knew the Chiefs were going to win. Defense was going to handle business against Jameis Winston. Mahomes, not a great day. 50% completion percentage, 19 for 38, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Carl Wentz gets in the game, 2 for 2 for 20 yards because Patrick Mahomes with a mild high ankle sprain. I feel like it's every single year with this guy at this point in the season. He injures his ankle. And I know Caesar and I were talking about it. He says, it's a work. It's a work. It's part of the storyline. And it could be. But every single year you get to December and Patrick Mahomes, he's going to fuck up his ankle somehow. And he's week to week. We'll see how it goes. He ain't missing games in previous seasons. He ain't missing games in this season. I don't see it happening, but it'll be a storyline. Oh, Mahomes the ankle, and then every game they win, it'll be, oh wow, what a warrior this guy is going out there with the mild high ankle sprain, and it's a tough injury to play on. Don't get me wrong, but we've seen it before. I'm not falling into the trap of talking about it until it becomes something that we need to talk about. If he misses next week's game, we'll talk about it. If he looks really bad, I mean, he hasn't looked great all season long, but if he looks really bad on the ankle next week's game, we'll talk about it. But I ain't going to talk about it in here. Jameis Winston, 16 for 25, 146 yards, 3 interceptions. Dorian Thompson-Robinson gets in. Can't even read this. 4 for 19, it looks like. His name is so long, it covers up the completion stats. 4 for 19, 18 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. Again, the Chiefs' defense, for as much as we want to talk about Andy Reid, as much as we want to talk about Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, so on and so forth, the defense has been holding the fort down this season. And whatever threat the Chiefs are, and they have to be considered a threat because of the experience, and they're winning all the games. They're probably going to be the 1 seed. The defense is the thing to talk about. The defense is playing fantastic football, and defense wins championships. You need to have a good defense, rocking and rolling come playoff time. The Chiefs, again, the Browns not the stiffest competition, but you handle business. You only give up 1 touchdown. Jerome Ford, 7 carries for 84 yards. So Jerome Ford had a little bit of a game. Nick Chubb, 9 for 41. Not terrible, but end of the day, they only score 7 points. Chiefs, 21 points. Pedestrian offensive performance, but enough to get it done by multiple scores. Now, Miami and Houston. I believe I was on Miami and Caesar was on Houston. And again, I got to go back. This is me setting myself up to take a victory lap no matter what. Because either I was going to pick this game right, or I was going to be able to circle back to my point that Miami was not going to be a winning football team this year. And we're close. We're getting close to that. We're getting real close. They might still pull it off. But I will point out that I cashed a futures bet. Miami Dolphins under 9.5 wins. That cashed. They are now 6-8. Best they can do is 9-8. Told you they weren't going to make the playoffs. They still have a shot, but it's very marginal at this point. And I don't see it happening. Let me pull up their schedule. I know they got the Jets again here, but they got the Niners, Browns, and Jets. So they could rip off 3 wins in a row here and get the 9-8. But they ain't catching they ain't catching my Broncos. They ain't gonna catch the Ravens. Can't catch the Steelers if the Steelers lose out and the Ravens prevail in the North. Only team they can catch is the Chargers, and we will get to the Chargers. And you know I got something to say about Justin Herbert and the Chargers. But Chargers 8-6. They got the Broncos, Patriots, Raiders. I mean, they ain't losing to the Patriots and Raiders. So Dolphins probably dead in the water. Probably needed to win this game. And Texans winning this paired with the Colts loss pretty much puts this in their hands at this point. I mean, it's never been in doubt to me. The Colts are not a good football team. And Texans, not great, but good enough. Really good defense. Offense down this year, but they'll be in the playoffs. I guess let's look at some stats and see how they did. Tua, Terrible game, 29 for 40. Not a bad completion percentage. Only 196 yards on 29 attempts, though. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Not doing much running the ball. 40 pass attempts to 19 total carries for the team. Achane, 12 for 41. Less than 3.5 yards a carry. Mostert, 6 for 8. Jalen Wright, 1 for 3. So just not getting it done. Malik Washington led the team in receiving. Love to see that. I loved Malik Washington coming into the draft. 5 for 52 to lead the team. Jonnu Smith, another volume game. 9 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown. Tyreek, 2 for 36. Achane, 7 for 35. And then, River Craycraft, Durham Smythe, Grant DeBose mixing in, catching a ball here or there. But Texans escape. CJ Stroud, solid day, 18 for 26, only 131 yards, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Another team not running the ball enough. Just didn't run a lot of plays, but Ogunbowale, 1 carry for 35 yards to lead the team in rushing. Mixon, 12 carries for 23 yards, less than 2 yards a carry. Tank Dell, 1 for 15. Stroud, 6 scrambles for 4 yards. Their leading receiver was Joe Mixon with 5 carries for 33 yards. So the Dolphins' defense certainly came to play, but the 3 Tua interceptions, that'll do it. If you don't turn those balls over, again, they lose 20-12. So it was a gettable game. Just too many mistakes on the offensive side of the football. Could not take advantage of a strong defensive performance. Here's another just. Do we even need to talk about this? The Jets beat the Jaguars 32-25. Caesar and I were both on the Jets. Whatever. Jets now 4-10. Meaningless. Jags 3-11. Meaningless. Rodgers put up some good stats. 16 for 30, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Probably not running the ball enough. Aaron Rodgers led the team in rushing, 6 carries for 45 yards. Breece Hall, 9 for 30 and a touchdown. Isaiah Davis, 5 for 24. Braylon Allen, 2 for 5. Ashton Davis, 1 for 21. Monster day. This is a wind the clock back day for Rodgers and Devontae. Devontae, 9 catches, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns on 12 targets. Garrett Wilson, 3 for 56 and a touchdown. So they were getting it done through the air. Jaguars defense, not good, is what it is. The Jags came out, scored a touchdown on the first drive, but just not enough to get it done. Mac Jones, 31 for 46, 294, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. ETN, 14 carries, 65 yards. Tank Bigsby, 11 for 42. Brian Thomas Jr. had himself a nice day, maybe his best day as a rookie. 10 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brenton Strange, 11 catches for 73 yards. Parker Washington, 3 for 54 yards. Just random dudes catching balls out here for the Jags. They put up 25 points. The Jets defense, I don't know if it's just Coach Brick. Again, I talked about this multiple times. You fire Bob Saleh. He was calling the defensive plays, and he was head coach. Now Coach Brick has to come in, call the plays, and be the head coach. So I don't know if that's just it's too much, and the attention to detail is not there because he's spread too thin, and the defense is falling apart as a result. If it's just the Jets are so bad, and the defense these past few years has carried the weight that they're sick of it, and they're kind of sleepwalking, even in a game where, even in the last 2 games where the Jets offense has put up numbers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers had his first 300-yard passing day last week since his last MVP season, I think, 2021. So offense starting to figure it out, but the defense is just they're sleepwalking at this point. This game meaningless unless you, for whatever reason, bet money on it, or you have some of these players on your fantasy team, which again, some solid numbers here. If you're still starting Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, congratulations, you got a ton of points. God forbid you're starting Mac Jones, 294, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But it was a game that happened that has absolutely no bearing on anything other than, I guess, who's going to get what the positioning is going to be for the draft picks come NFL draft season. But a little bit of controversy in this next one. The Washington Commanders eke out a win on the Saints 20-19. Both Caesar and I were on the Commanders. I had talked about the Saints' pass defense being very underrated. However, Jaden Daniels had a very nice day. 25 for 31, 226, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I was kind of pounding the table, run the ball. I think you got a better chance of running the ball against the Saints. Jaden Daniels, 11 carries, 66 yards. Brian Robinson, 21 carries, only 65 yards, only about 3 yards a carry. But again, that's 32 carries between the two of them right there. Jaden Daniels, one of those guys. With some quarterbacks, I look at scrambles as they're called pass plays. Other guys like this, even if it's not a called run play for someone like Jaden Daniels or Lamar, they're true runners. So I will factor that in because I do think that factors in when their game planning is like, these guys are going to get out and run at least a few times, even if it's not a called run. So 31 between the two of them. Jeremy McNichols had 2 carries and Chris Rodriguez Jr. had 1. So you got 31 pass attempts to 35 rushes. So good effort. Saints defense, when they're doing their thing, they're capable. Um, Spencer Rattler ended up taking most of the snaps. Jake Hayner, I believe, got injured. He only went 4 for 10 for 49 yards. Spencer Rattler, 10 for 21, buck 35, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Alvin Kamara only got 5 carries for 12 yards. Kendre Miller, 9 for 46. So, I mean, over 5 yards carry, he was doing his thing. But Alvin Kamara is Alvin Kamara. We got to get him the ball. He did have 4 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 2 for 64. Foster Moreau, 4 for 39 and a touchdown. Dante Pettis had a couple. Juwan Johnson had a couple. Kevin Austin Jr. had 1. But the controversy came at the end of the game. If you haven't seen this, it ultimately didn't impact the outcome of the game. But the Saints got the ball. They're driving down. They get a completion, I want to say inside like the 2-yard line, something like that. And the clock was running, no timeouts. And the guy gets stopped in the field of play around the 2-yard line. And the ref comes in, blowing his whistle, waving his hands, stop the clock. The clock stops for 4 seconds. The Saints are able to get up, clock the ball with 3 seconds left, I believe. Might have been 4. Let me double check that. Either way, it doesn't matter. The 3 seconds left. So the point is, if this ref didn't fuck this up, refs fucking something up. Shocking, I know. But if they didn't fuck this up, the clock would have ran out. Saints wouldn't have had a chance. But then Spencer Rattler passed short right to Foster Moreau for 1 yard touchdown. All they got to do, kick the extra point, tie this game. We're going to overtime. They decide, we ain't doing shit right now. Probably screwed. Probably not going to make the playoffs. Very overwhelmingly likely we're not. Again, this is another team, needs a miracle. Now at 5-9, could have got to 6-8 and been up there with the vaunted 2024 Dallas Cowboys. But they decided to go for 2. The win. Either way, game's over. We ain't playing fucking overtime. No point. But Spencer Rattler attempts to pass the ball to Juwan Johnson. Pass incomplete. Commanders hold on. This is a firm Rasheed Wallace ball don't lie situation. The game should have been over. They should have never got that touchdown. The ball don't lie. Commanders walk out with a win. Close game. Either way, close game. You know, score should have been 20-13. Either way, it's a 1-possession game. Again, the Saints defense is capable of playing good ball, specifically the pass defense. But again, Jaden Daniels, 25 for 31, 226, 2 touchdowns. So, I don't know. No turnovers in the game. Um, I do want to let's look at time of possession. Washington, 40 minutes time of possession to only 19 for the Saints, but 9 penalties. They converted 52% on third down. Just an interesting game flow here looking at this. They possessed the ball 40 minutes and 50 seconds. And they ran 66 plays in just over 40 minutes. No turnovers. What are we looking at here? 3 punts? Oh, they missed a field goal late, but I don't know. Only scoring 20 points when you have pretty solid success against a good Saints pass defense. Again, you run 66 plays, you possess the ball for 40 minutes, only have 3 punts. So I don't know. Just game feels like with the clock running. I don't know. I didn't watch any of this game. I was working all day Sunday, which is never fun. But thankfully, my Vikings didn't play. And if they did play, guess what? I wasn't working. I will be watching the Vikings. Don't care. Don't ask me to work when the Vikings are on, because it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. But Terry McLaurin, 7 receptions, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns. I believe he's only had 2 games with 2+ touchdowns in his career prior to this season. I believe this season he has 4. I want to say he has 10 or 11 receiving touchdowns on the season. I could click his name right here and find out. But Jaden Daniels, I mean, we all know Terry McLaurin is a really good football player. But now finally having an actual quarterback, I feel like he's sort of unlocking him a little bit. Yes, 11 touchdowns. I was right the first time. But Commanders sneak out with a win. Closer than it should have been. Little controversy at the end, but no harm, no foul. Ball don't lie. Still feels interesting. They only scored 20 points with no turnovers, and they possessed the ball for 40 minutes and ran 66 plays. But you get the job done, is what it is. The Baltimore Ravens traveled to New Jersey, where I may or may not be right now, and put a beat down on the Giants. I believe I said with Caesar, Ravens might beat them by 30. It was looking very possible. It was 35-7 late in that game. Giants get a garbage time touchdown. Fucking Tim Boyle. What are we doing? Tim Boyle gets in the game. Why is this guy in the league? I saw a stat maybe an hour ago. Teams are 0-11 when Tim Boyle takes a snap in a football game. You just don't want him on the roster. Tommy DeVito, 10 for 13, 68 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Tim Boyle, 12 for 24, 123 yards, 1 touchdown, and of course an interception because he is Tim Boyle, and there's no way Tim Boyle is playing games and taking snaps and not going to turn the ball over because Tim Boyle sucks. No offense, dude. You're not good at your job. Makes no sense that he's in the league, threw more interceptions than touchdowns in college and somehow got into the NFL. I had a better touchdown to interception ratio in college than he did. Doesn't make sense. Continues to not make sense. Tyrone Tracy, not a great game. 10 carries, 31 yards. Devin Singletary, 8 for 25 and a touchdown and 2 quarterback scrambles. So they threw 37 times to 18 called runs for their running backs. I would rip them for it because, we need to run the ball, but you're the Giants. The organization's tanking. The fans want you to tank. The fans are embarrassed. You did your job. You caught a beat down from the Ravens, but whatever. It is what it is. Derrick Henry, only 14 carries, 67 yards, almost 5 yards carry, 4.8, but very pedestrian numbers for him. Maybe he's slowing down a little bit. Maybe they're trying to regulate his carries a little bit, kind of keep him fresh for the postseason, I would imagine. Lamar, 6 for 65 on the ground. 21 for 25 for 295 touchdowns. Another Lamar Jackson 5 touchdown performance. And for as much as I've said, listen, Lamar not the MVP. The MVP is Josh Allen. As much as I've said last season, Josh Allen was the MVP and not Lamar. Lamar is a tremendous, tremendous football player, a tremendous passer of the football, and a tremendous quarterback. And anybody that's still out there saying, "No, he's just a running back. Oh, he's not that good passing the ball." They'll nitpick. They'll find little throws here and there where, oh, look at that. He should have. A real quarterback would have completed that ball. And these people do exist. I'm not saying there's a lot of them, but they do still exist. And until every single human being that watches or consumes football in any capacity, even if we're talking about football overseas, even if it's just people watching soccer, until every human being that watches a sport called football on this earth and on any other earth acknowledges that Lamar Jackson is a great fucking quarterback, I'm going to keep bringing it up because he deserves it. 21 for 25, 295 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And they just ran roughshod over the Giants. What did anyone expect? They're 9-5. Steelers catch a loss, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So Ravens back in the mix. They still got another game against the Steelers coming up. The Steelers also have a game against Kansas City. I'll dive into their schedule more when we get to that game, but Ravens got the Steelers next week in Baltimore, in M&T Bank Stadium. They win that game, everything starts to hinge again because then they're at the Texans. We know the Texans, good, not great. Browns in Baltimore, Browns, terrible. So Ravens might come back and steal this thing from Pittsburgh if Pittsburgh don't figure it out. But stay in the AFC North.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Well, I don't know what happened there, but everything just shut down and came back on and started recording again. But I think I talked about it on the pick show last week. That Will Levis has had a stretch. He's not playing good football, but he's not playing terrible football. Well, here he was back to playing terrible football. Cincinnati's defense, 4 interceptions. 4 interceptions. Tony Pollard lost a fumble. Will Levis also lost a fumble. And you still give up 27 points? You forced 6 turnovers. 6 turnovers in one football game, and you still give up 27 points. Cincinnati, just awful. Awful. Joe Burrow, 26 for 37. Only 271. He didn't throw for 350 this week. He did throw for his customary 3 touchdowns, but he added 2 interceptions. Chase Brown, 25 carries, 97 yards and a touchdown. Jamar, 9 catches, 94 yards, no touchdowns. T, 5 for 88 and a touchdown. They get it done. They win by 10. They're 6-8. They're not going to make the playoffs. But how the fuck do you get 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and you still give up 27 points? I don't get it. One last thing I want to talk about is my boy, the War Daddy, the planet-sized mutant himself, T'Vondre Sweat, picked himself up a loose ball, a fumble, and he rumbled with that thing, man. Rumbled with it. 30 yards. If you have not seen this, Joe Burrow, he throws a bunch of touchdowns every week. Had him and Jamar and T, bunch of highlights. But if you've seen it, you've seen one, you've seen them all. There was no, OBJ one-handed, reaching back catch. There was no Justin Jefferson against the Bills catch. Nothing that's like, oh, you gotta see what Jamar did. You gotta see what Joe Burrow did. If you watch one play from this game, and you should watch it, watch my boy, the War Daddy, the planet-sized mutant, T'Vondre Sweat, pick up that ball and rumble for 30 yards. Man, it was a good day. It was a good day for the big boys picking up balls. Detroit, Skip, he had himself another one. We'll get to that, but T'Vondre Sweat with the football in his hands. There's positively nothing on Earth or any other planet for that matter better than watching Tavondre Sweat run with the football, baby. You gotta love it. We're moving on. New England Patriots drop another one. They fall to 3-11. They lose 30-17 to the now 7-7 Arizona Cardinals, who are back, only a game back. But of course, they lost both games to Seattle. But Seattle did not look great. Geno, don't know what his status is going to be. They got a tough game against my Minnesota Vikings next week. See how that goes. But the Cardinals now third place. The Rams starting to pick up steam. Did the Cardinals in that losing streak? Because remember, the Cardinals were 6-4, and now they're 7-7. They were 6-7, lost 3 straight. So did that 3-game losing streak that might have screwed them? That might have put them back. But let's take a look at their schedule. See who they got. See if they got a shot. I believe they got a game against the Rams left. They're gonna have to win. They got the Panthers, winnable game. Rams gonna have to win that game. And the 49ers, winnable game to end the season. If you could take care of, and again, the Panthers, Caesar and I both talking about it. They're gonna play spoiler to somebody. Just you could feel it. You can feel it. Even if they got beat down bad by the Cowboys this week, you ain't spoiling the Cowboys. Cowboys spoiled themselves, and they soiled themselves at the same time. So nothing to get up about for that game other than just it's a football game and you're a professional. But they got a chance here. They can knock off the Cardinals and knock them out of it. But the Cardinals, these are 3 winnable games. You got to win a road game in LA, which is not at home, despite what the smattering of obnoxious Rams fans yelling, Rams house. Despite that, it is not the Rams house. It has never been the Rams house and will continue to not be the Rams house. I imagine there will be a pretty good sea of red there for that game, December 29th. Currently slated at 1 p.m. I don't think that's going to be the case. There ain't no way they're playing a 1 p.m. game, a 10 a.m. game in LA. I assume that's, again, I think we dealt with this last week where there's some wonky stuff here showing up on the schedule. But just, I'm Googling Arizona Cardinals schedule. If you go to NFL.com, they might have the accurate version of it. But, yeah, Cardinals still got a shot. They still got a shot, but they need Seattle to stumble here. Seattle at 8-6. I think they're going to need them to drop 2 games. Let's see who else the Seahawks got, because they got the Vikings next week, then they got Chicago, and then they got the Rams. So this could be a situation where Arizona needs the Vikings, realistically, the Vikings to beat Seattle and Seattle to beat, or no, the Rams. Ooh, it's going to get dicey here. We'll do this tomorrow. I don't want to get lost doing this because the Rams got the Jets, Cardinals, Seahawks. We'll get into the playoff machine tomorrow. But it's not impossible. Cardinals only a game back, but not having that tiebreaker with Seattle could create some issues. I don't know if the Cardinals win out and both the Cardinals and the Rams finish 10-7. Not 100% sure who's got the tiebreaker there, because that would involve the Cardinals obviously winning at least 1 game against the Rams. But if there is a 3-way tie at 10-7, the Seahawks, having beaten the Cardinals twice, will knock them out, and then we go to a tiebreaker between Seattle and the Rams. So either way, Arizona knows they need to win out, and they need Seattle to lose 2 of their last 3, which is not impossible because Geno, again, we don't know his status. They got a tough game against Minnesota. They got a tough game against the Rams. So Arizona, they're not out of it. They're in the thick of it, but not the best odds. I ain't Kornacki. I don't have my little tie dangling while I'm, crouching and pointing at a screen. But I'm sure he was breaking it down on Sunday Night Football or before Sunday Night Football Night in America. Indianapolis Colts at my Denver Broncos, baby. And it was looking dicey. It was looking a little dicey. It was 13-7 at halftime. Jonathan Taylor going in on a long touchdown, but what does Jonathan Taylor do? And I was praising this man. I said, listen, they got to run the ball. Jonathan Taylor, you got to run the ball. But the Broncos got a good run defense. They got to handle business here. But if you're going to get it done, you're probably going to get it done with Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor goes for 22 carries, 107 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. They were committed to the run, although granted, Anthony Richardson threw 38 passes for 38, 17 for 38, the most Anthony Richardson stat line of all time. 172 yards passing on 38 passes on the ground. Anthony Richardson does add 7 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown, but Jonathan Taylor. Colts are up 13-7. Now, again, their season's basically on the line at this point. You drop this game, you fall to 6-8, which they did. And like at this point, they were still kind of in the mix with the Texans had won. So if they had won this game and they get to 7-7, 2 games back with 3 to go, you might be able to steal the division. Maybe, probably not. Slim odds, but it's possible. But realistically, you're looking for a wild card because if you beat the Broncos, at that point the Broncos would have been 8-6. You would have been 7-7 with the tiebreaker. You're only a game back. And the Broncos got a game against Kansas City at the end of the season. So you might be able to sneak in there. The Chargers end up losing. They fall to 8-6. You're only a game back at 2 of the wild card teams. Needed to win this game. You're up 13-7. Jonathan Taylor going into the end zone, and he does the same thing. I don't know how this keeps happening. I remember the first time, I don't remember what it was. I believe it was college, years ago. The first time I saw a guy going into the end zone, and he's got the ball in his hand, but he's kind of got it down to his side, trailing behind him, and dropped the ball on his way into the end zone. The first time I saw him, like, that's the craziest thing I ever seen. How do you let that happen? And I feel like it's been happening more and more. I feel like I've seen it like 4 or 5 times between college and the pros this year alone. And it's crazy to me. Like, the ball is life. The ball is the program. The goal of the game is to get the ball into the end zone. We can't be fucking around with that shit. You can't do it. Make sure the ball is in the end zone and then do whatever you want. Throw it into the stands. Spike it. Hold it and rock it and pretend it's a baby. Pretend it's a gun and shoot your teammates with it and then probably get fined for it. Roll it like a bowling ball. Do whatever you want with that football after you confirm that the ball is in the end zone. What are we doing? I expect better from Jonathan Taylor. He does not strike me as a guy that would do some dumb shit like that. But he did some dumb shit like that. Again, up 13-7. You're going up 20-7 on a Broncos team that did not have necessarily their best day. Bo Nix, 20 for 33, 130 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Jaden Daniels with a very nice day against, again, a quietly strong Saints pass defense. Jaden Daniels probably putting himself back up ahead of Bo Nix. Now, Brock Bowers, we got to factor him in because Brock Bowers is playing some football. Brock Bowers playing some damn football for the Raiders. And the Raiders stink. But Brock Bowers is good. So, Bo Nix turning the ball over a little bit here lately. Only 130 yards on 33 pass attempts. This is kind of what the knock on Bo Nix was. Is like, yeah, he's going to complete a bunch of balls, but for how many yards? He's going to throw all these little like 2-3 yard passes. But the 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, put them behind. They couldn't do shit on the ground. Bo Nix, 8 carries for 23 yards, led the team. Jaleel McLaughlin, 7 carries for 21. Javonte Williams, 6 for 15. Audric Estime, 5 for 13. A commitment there to some extent. What's that? 15, 21, 26, 27, including the 8 Bo Nix runs. But Bo Nix, another guy, he likes to get out and run. So he's another guy that sneakily, I will say, him running the ball, I will count towards when I think about passing versus rushing. Whereas, like Aaron Rodgers, I ain't counting his, even though he led the Jets this week in rushing, I ain't counting that toward Like that's not showing a commitment to the run. Those are Aaron Rodgers scrambles, uncalled pass plays. But they couldn't get shit going on the ground, couldn't get shit going through the air. Colts defense played a hell of a game, but Broncos come back like crazy headed into the fourth quarter. They're still down. They're still down 13-10, and they put up 21 in the final frame, and just not good enough. You look at the Colts here in the fourth quarter, punt. Broncos, touchdown. Adonai Mitchell fumbles the ball, recovered by Nick Bonito at the 50-yard touchdown. So the Broncos get 2 straight touchdowns. Then the Colts turn it over on downs. Broncos punt. Colts throw an interception. Broncos come down. 20-yard pass to Cortland Sutton for a touchdown. Colts turn the ball over on downs again. So you're up 13-10 coming into the fourth quarter, and you muster a punt, a fumble that you allow them to return for a touchdown, turnover on downs, an interception, and another turnover on downs. So just a complete and colossal meltdown in the fourth quarter. Did absolutely nothing after the Jonathan Taylor unforced error fumble running into the end zone that would have put you up 20-7 at that point. So just you make a bonehead decision like that, and it can swing the momentum, and it swung the momentum here. And my Denver Broncos, baby, Broncos country. Let's ride. You love to see it. 9-5 Denver Broncos, and they now jump to the 6th seed because of what the Chargers did. And I'm going to get to that game next. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My Tampa Bay Buccaneers that I told you at 4-6. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker's keeping the fires burning. He's keeping the boys upright and ready to fucking rock and roll. They lost a few games. They're 2 games under 500. Don't matter. Baker's balling his ass off. He's doing everything he can to make sure the boys know we ain't out of this shit. There's a lot of season left. 4-6, and I said the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man, they're gonna win this division. Tampa Bay Buccaneers rip off 4 straight wins. They're now 8-6, firmly in control. Even if the Falcons win tonight against the Raiders, firmly in control. Despite losing both games to the Falcons, firmly in control, because this was the one game left on the Buccaneers' schedule where you could say, I could see them dropping that. Because they got the Cowboys, Panthers, and Saints. And again, you got 2 divisional games. You got to throw the records out the window. Panthers, again, poised to play spoiler to someone. But you're going to tell me on Sunday Night Football next week the Bucs ain't going to roll into Dallas where Dallas can't win worth a shit, and they ain't going to beat the dog shit out the Cowboys? And then the Panthers and the Saints in back-to-back weeks, December 29th and January 5th, got to go into Tampa Bay where they're firing off the cannons. And they're going to upset the Bucs? The Bucs rolling like the Bucs are rolling? Not going to happen because the Bucs went in to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. Chargers, for whatever you, and Mr. Magoo, whatever we want to say about Justin Herbert not being a top 5 quarterback, Justin Herbert not an elite quarterback in this league. He is an elite prospect. He is an elite talent. He has all the talent in the world. But he ain't it. He ain't it until he proves he's it. And he ain't proving shit because Baker Mayfield came in here. Baker Mayfield, who they threw in the trash. 2 teams threw in the trash before Sean McVay said, come in. We'll have you start this Thursday night game on a couple days. Learning the playbook on the flight over. Gave him a chance. Bucs give him another chance. He balls out. They win a playoff game. They give him a big extension, 3 years. 3 years, $100 million, I want to say. And good for Baker, man. 22 for 27, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, but 4 touchdowns. Bucky Irving, my man. Bucky Irving back. Again, got knocked out last week. All week was he's probably going to go. And oh, did he go. 15 carries for 117 yards, 7.8 yards a carry. Rachaad White has 15 carries of his own for 64 yards, 4.27 yards per carry. And again, right there, look at that. 15 and 15. How many carries? That's 30 carries between their top two running backs. How many pass attempts for Baker? 27. What did Baker do with the 27? 288, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. You don't need to throw the ball 45 times, 50 times, 55 times, 65 times to amass a bunch of yards and get a bunch of touchdowns. You balance the passing and the rushing. You marry the two together. Sean Tucker added 7 carries here, so that's 37 carries for the running backs to 27 passes for Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield still throws for 288 yards and 4 touchdowns. And it helps when you got Mike Evans, Mikey Shipwreck, 9 catches, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns on 11 targets, all the way back. If there was any question, him coming back from the hamstring, how long is it going to take for him to get back to form? He's back. He's back. Ain't a player in football with more receiving touchdowns than Mike Evans since he came into the league. Number one, numero uno, slightly ahead of Devontae Adams. Over 100, I want to say 103 career touchdowns from Mike Evans. And he added 2 more here today. 9 for 159. Jalen McMillan, 5 for 75 and a touchdown. And then they spread the ball around after that. Rachaad White did lose a fumble. Baker Mayfield did throw an interception, but didn't stop him. Didn't stop him from beating the shit out of the Chargers, who the Chargers have one of the best defenses in the league. Chargers have been balling on defense. Chargers have been winning games on defense. And the Bucs dropped 40 on them. So much like I was talking about with the Rams, where it's like, who are the best 7 teams in the NFC? Tampa Bay is one of the best 7 teams in the NFC. And it's a cliche, but ain't nobody want to play the Bucs in the playoffs because they just hung 40 points on the Chargers defense. I want to play them. Now, if you're a real contender, if you're a true Super Bowl contender, it doesn't matter who you want to play. You should be willing to play anyone because if you're a true contender, you can beat anyone. And if you're afraid to play someone, then you're probably not a true contender. But for the fans who get nervous about these things, like, I don't want to play the Bucs in Tampa Bay in the first round. No thanks. I ain't trying to get into that. The Bucs are dangerous, man. And we can't sleep on it. But I want to look up this Chargers defense just so we can illustrate exactly what they're going up against. Chargers are top 6 in yards per attempt allowed. Only 19 passing touchdowns, 14 forced interceptions. That 19 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th in the league surrendered. Passer rating, top 8, 8th in the league in defensive passer rating. You talk about running the football because, again, Bucky Irving. Rachaad White had a real nice game, and Bucky Irving damn near doubled his ass with the same amount of carries. But the Chargers, mid-pack, run defense. But with Jim Harbaugh, like you're gonna play good in smart scenarios. This case, it wasn't happening, man. It was not happening. 40-17. So both these teams now at 8-6, and once again, the Los Angeles Chargers lose to a team with a winning record. Once again, Justin Herbert does not get it done against a team with a winning record. Who are they beating? They lost to the Bucs, lost to the Chiefs. They beat the Falcons. Congratulations. Lost to the Ravens. Barely beat the Bengals. Beat the Titans. Beat the Browns. Beat the Saints. Lost to the Cardinals, who were 500. Beat the Broncos. They beat the Broncos, but it's a divisional game. You got to throw the records out the window. They lost to the Chiefs. Lost to the Steelers. Beat the shit out of the Panthers in week 2 when the Panthers were still just god-awful. And they beat the Raiders. You beat the Broncos. That's it. That's the only true quality win on the Chargers schedule this year. Now, they hung tough in some of these games. They only lost to the Chiefs by a touchdown. They only lost to the Chiefs this last one by 2 points. But if you can't beat good teams, if you can't beat teams over 500, if you can't beat teams that are going to be in the playoffs, how are you going to go on a playoff run? They're going to be in the playoffs, but they don't win a playoff game. Because the Bucs can be in the playoffs, couldn't beat them. Chiefs going to be in the playoffs, couldn't beat them. Ravens going to be in the playoffs, couldn't beat them. Who else? Steelers, couldn't beat them. Beat the Broncos. That's it. And the Broncos, they get them one more time here next week on, was this Thursday Night Football. Broncos probably going to go into LA and beat the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers are going to beat the Broncos twice. So I don't know, man. Chargers, I love me some Jim Harbaugh. I am forever indebted to him for what he did, not just winning Michigan that national championship, leading Michigan to that national championship, but cultivating, growing, grooming J.J. McCarthy to be the Vikings starting quarterback for the next 15 years. So I love me some Jim Harbaugh. But I don't even know if Jim Harbaugh cannot take Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert was 21 for 33, 195 yards. And again, I don't know what the hell. I know J.K. Dobbins is out. 8 carries for Gus Edwards for 23 yards. 3 carries for Kamani Vidal for 9 yards. That's it. 11 rushes to 34 pass attempts. 195 yards passing. It's not going to get it done. It's not going to get it done. But who did get it done were the now 11-3 Buffalo Bills, taking out the Detroit Lions, the first team to take out the Detroit Lions since the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in week 2. Lions just steamrolling over the league, but the defense, the injuries, it's too much. Aleem McNeil tears his ACL. He's out for the season. Carlton Davis breaks his jaw. He's out 6 weeks. Who else did they lose? David Montgomery tears his MCL. Could be out for the rest of the season. On top of Hutchinson, Anzalone, everybody else. Pretty much it's down to what? Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch are like your only serviceable players left. At least that you started the season. It's crazy. It's Is it bad luck? Is it bad juju? Because at times they ride the line of being a dirty defense, but we've seen much dirtier defenses in the past. They haven't gotten this beat up. This is just football, man. And it can be the product of playing a very aggressive, very physical style. But the Bills, they go into Detroit coming off the tough loss to the Rams last week. Bills get it done 48-42 in Detroit, drop Detroit to 12-2, and now Detroit, I said it on the pick show. Caesar picked Buffalo. I picked Detroit, and I was waffling. I said I cannot pick against Detroit until they show me that all these defensive injuries are going to stop them. And this was the game. Because Josh Allen is the MVP. Josh Allen is a superhero, 23 for 34, 362 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. James Cook, 14 carries, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Josh Allen, 11 for 68 on the ground, 2 touchdowns of his own, 4 total touchdowns on the game. Ray Davis had 7 for 15. Ty Johnson, 2 for 9. Ty Johnson, 5 catches for 114 yards. Keon Coleman, only 1 catch, 64 yards. Dalton Kincaid, 4 for 53. Dawson Knox, 2 for 42, including a tremendous one-handed grab on, I believe it was their last possession, might have been the second to last possession, but on a key third down where that could have swung the game. Detroit, because again, Detroit found a way to get back in it. Detroit only loses by 6 points. If the Bills don't go down and score that touchdown, Detroit might steal that game. Dawson Knox looking like me out there, looking like me on Terrace Boulevard, baby. Snagging them one-handed grabs. You love to see it. Khalil Shakir, 6 for 39 and a touchdown. James Cook, 1 for 28. Ray Davis, 2 for 14. Mac Hollins, 1 for 7. Curtis Samuel, 1 for 1. I believe he got hurt, but that's what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different guys catching balls for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Jared Goff, monster day, 38 for 59, 494 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. So the Lions this year have lost a game in which Jared Goff threw for 5 touchdown passes and have won a game where Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions. Go figure, that's football. did not get it done on the ground. We're not, again, 59 pass attempts. Jahmyr Gibbs, and let me remind you, it's a Buffalo Bills team, not good against the run on defense. Not good against the run. They have not been getting it done against teams just pounding the rock on them. And we've seen Detroit come down and pound the rock on these dudes. 8 carries for Jahmyr Gibbs, 31 yards and a touchdown. 5 carries for 4 yards for David Montgomery before he tore his MCL. Only 13 called run plays to 59 pass attempts for Jared Goff. And again, 494 yards, 5 touchdowns. You can't really argue against it. But are you controlling the clock? Are you controlling the game flow? Are you keeping the ball out of Josh Allen's hands? The man is on a Superman run right now. 3 weeks in a row, he's done something that no quarterback has done before in NFL history because he's the MVP. And I'm going to win a lot of money off of that, baby. Do your thing, Josh. We love you, baby. But Buffalo, 32 minutes, 42 seconds, time of possession. Detroit's 27 and 18. I don't know how many times this year Detroit has lost the time of possession battle. I don't imagine it's many because they pound the rock. I don't know why, even once Montgomery went down, I don't know why they weren't more committed to the run. I know Buffalo jumped out on them for sure, but I don't know. Like you can't abandon the run until like the clock is truly your biggest enemy. When the clock is your biggest enemy, then you can't run the ball. The clock can be an enemy. You could be down 17 points in the second quarter, and the clock is it's a issue, it's a problem, but it's not your biggest opponent. Your opponent is still your biggest opponent. So this is a little puzzling to me. Again, even with the monster day from Jared Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 14 catches for 193 yards and a touchdown. Laporta, 7 for 111. Gibbs, 5 for 83. And you could say, you throw some little like short screen passes or swing passes out to Jahmyr Gibbs, and they can kind of count as a run play. But 5 for 83 and a touchdown for him. Jameson Williams, 3 for 37 and a touchdown. Montgomery, 4 for 31. Tim Patrick, 4 for 30 and a touchdown. Dan Skipper, I had mentioned, 1 catch, 9 yards, a 9-yard catch for an offensive lineman. That you love to see for a touchdown. I don't know. I just feel like you always gotta be committed to the run, especially when you're a damn good run team, and especially when you're going up against a team that is having a shit ton of problems defending the run, especially when their best run defender who just came back goes down with an injury again and gets knocked out of the game in Matt Milano. So I don't know. That's a little puzzling to me. One other thing of note from this game, Dan Campbell went for an onside kick, which now you have to declare that you're going for an onside kick, and so there's no surprise. And this to me was not a Dan Campbell gamble. A Dan Campbell gamble is a situation where he's feeling the vibe, he's feeling the flow. Things are usually going good, and it's like, fuck it, we're going to do this thing here. He likes to catch you off guard, or he likes to go for it on 4th down and line up and say, like, I dare you to stop us. Going for that onside kick was not a gamble. It was not anything other than, and don't get me wrong when I say this, a desperation move that was necessary because they could not stop the Bills at all. They needed to do something. We need to steal a possession here to get back in striking distance so that we can get into the back and forth to try and steal this thing at the end. And they almost recovered an onside kick. The pile was piled up for like a minute and a half on that onside kick at the very end. And I'm getting ready to text my boy, the Buffalorian, and let him know, like, of course, the only 2 successful onside kicks this year are against Minnesota and against Buffalo. But Buffalo pulled it out, handled business, got it done, win by 6. And now this is huge because now Philadelphia is in a much better position to try and steal that 1 seed than they were being a game back. Detroit is still in possession of it right now, but Minnesota now in full control of their own destiny. For as much as everyone loves to talk about Detroit, for as much as everyone loves to talk about Philadelphia. Philadelphia could win the rest of their games and still be the 2 seed. Minnesota and Detroit are the only 2 teams that control their own destiny for that 1 seed. If either one of those teams wins the rest of their games, they will be the 1 seed. If Minnesota wins out starting tonight against Chicago, Seattle, Green Bay, and Detroit, a tough slate. We'll see with Geno next week with Seattle how that's going to affect things, because prior to getting just absolutely bodied on national television by the Green Bay Packers, Seattle had been playing some good football, and it's in their home. And then Green Bay, very good team, tough team to beat, a lot of talent, a clear, rock solid playoff team. And then Detroit, obviously, is Detroit, even with all the injuries on defense. Jared Goff can throw for 494 yards and 5 touchdowns on you. So it's a tough slate. But if Minnesota proves that they belong in that conversation and they win out, they are the 1 seed. And that's thanks to the Buffalo Bills winning this game. So now the pressure is kind of on Detroit. Detroit can't really cruise here down the stretch because Eagles are breathing down their neck. The Eagles obviously need Detroit to lose another game, and they need us to lose another game. So I think the likely scenario for Philly would be we beat Detroit in the last week of the season, and then we drop one of these next few games here. But that race at the top, where it's Detroit just week after week, who's next? Bludgeon them to death, throw their carcass in the trash. Who's next? Bludgeon them to death, throw the carcass in the trash. Who's next? So on and so forth. They've been slowing down a little bit. Caesar's talked about it for a few weeks now on the pick show. They're slowing down. And now it tightens. And that's how crazy the NFC is this year. Detroit, again, had not lost a game since week 2. Since week 2, they lose 1 game to a Super Bowl contender in the Buffalo Bills by 6 points in a shootout. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, we have to go handle business. There was no cushion. Like, that was your cushion. If you lose that game to the Bills, ain't no more cushion. NFC is wild this year. I don't think I've ever seen the NFC this strong. I don't know if I've ever seen a conference this strong in my 20 plus years watching football. Just crazy. But shouts out the Bills on behalf of all Vikings fans out there, and on behalf of all Eagles fans out there. Shouts out to the Bills for doing us both a favor. And you put it in our hands, and now it's up to my Minnesota Vikings to go handle their business. They got a shot to go 12-2, tie Detroit at the top of the division, and they just got to keep handling their business, baby. But it's all thanks to the Buffalo Bills. And speaking of the Eagles, they maybe fucked around a little bit there in the second quarter, but Eagles handily take care of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who dropped to 10-4. Again, Baltimore is 9-5. They got a showdown coming up. Baltimore could take control of that division real quick. Steelers, I feel like the defense has kind of been recently. The offense in this game. Every time I feel like, all right, Steelers, we got to buy the Steelers. We got to believe in the Steelers. You know I love me some Coach T. Every time I get to that point, they do something like this, and I'm like, I don't know, because I picked the Steelers, and maybe I was hoping, just because, you know me, I hate the Eagles, but I don't particularly like the Steelers either. Something about this Steelers team this year, the Russ Redemption Tour, you get the rapist out of here. I don't know if I can say it on YouTube, but the that guy, you get him out of here. Team suddenly kind of becomes a little more likable, because of course I love me some Coach T, but Eagles finally get it done in the first quarter. They put up 10 in the first frame. They're up 10-3 after the first. Like I said, they fucked around a little bit in the second quarter. Pittsburgh puts up 10, but the Eagles get a touchdown. They're up 17-13 at the half. Blanked them in the second half. Defense didn't let them do anything in the second half. Eagles just methodical running clock in the second half. Just just doing the damn thing. Jalen Hurts, all the talk all week. Oh, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and Brandon Graham and all this, all the bullshit, all the AJ Brown, complaining about the passing game and all this. So they come out. Jalen Hurts, 25 for 32, 290 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Very pedestrian day for Saquon Barkley. 19 carries for 65 yards. Jalen Hurts adds 15 carries for 45 yards and touchdowns. So Jalen Hurts accounting for 335 yards of total offense and 3 touchdowns. No interceptions. I don't believe he. Oh, he did lose a fumble. That's right. He did lose a fumble in the second quarter when they were fucking around a little bit. But regardless, didn't end up hurting him. A.J. Brown, 8 for 110 and a touchdown. Smitty, 11 for 109 and a touchdown. Again, 1 yard difference between the two of them. 12 targets for Smitty, 11 for A.J. Brown. Both of them find the end zone. Nobody can complain. Nobody can say shit. It is what it is, and we know this is what Jalen Hurts is capable of. My thing with Jalen Hurts is we've never seen him consistently carry a team, but they have so much talent on the team with the receivers and with Saquon Barkley and the way Vic Fangio's got the boys on defense playing, the front seven balling out, the secondary balling out. Jalen Hurts doesn't need to carry the team. Every once in a while, Jalen Hurts just needs to show up and say, instead of going, 17 for 21 for 203 yards and a touchdown, and Saquon goes for 250 on the ground and the defense balls out. Every once in a while, Jalen Hurts is going to have to go 25 for 32 for 290 and 2 touchdowns and add another one on the ground. And he did. So good on Jalen Hurts, good on the passing game, good on my boy, Nick Sirianni. Clearly handled business behind the scenes. Ain't no way shit happens this smoothly if Sirianni didn't get everyone to sit him down and say, listen, we won 9 straight, we're about to win 10 straight. Can we stop? Can we stop fucking around? Can we stop complaining, doing stupid shit? It's unnecessary. Let's just, we're winning games. AJ Brown was missing a couple games, is still top 8, top 7 in receiving. Man, just everyone cool the fuck down. Stop saying shit in the media and let's go out there and just beat the dog shit out of the fucking Steelers. The Steelers are a good team. So the Eagles now stacking good wins against good opponents, stacking signature wins, playing dominant on defense, playing dominant on offense. And the Eagles look like who we think they are, who they've proven themselves to be. So shouts out to the Eagles. They get to 12-2. And like I said, they need Minnesota to drop a game, and they need Detroit to drop a game, and they need to win out, and they will get the 1 seed if that happens. They got Washington at Washington next week. Cowboys, Giants, all divisional games. So again, you got to throw the records out the window, but Eagles should be able to take care of business these last 3 weeks and get to 15-2. And that's a hell of a good season. And last but not least, we got Sunday Night Football. Green Bay Packers, Seattle Seahawks. Friend of the show, Gavin was on hand. First time at Lumen Field to watch his Green Bay Packers beat the piss out of the Seattle Seahawks 30-13. It felt like it was 45-6, to be completely honest. As I've alluded to multiple times throughout the show, Geno Smith goes down with an injury, but Jordan Love, 20 for 27, 229, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Another clean game for Jordan Love. He's stacking them together. For those of you familiar with the memes, we are in the midst of Toyotathon. Jordan Love during Toyotathon does not fuck around, and he continues to not fuck around. Josh Jacobs, 26 for 94 and a touchdown on the ground. Jaden Reed adds 3 carries for 27 yards. Christian Watson, 3 catches for 56. Josh Jacobs, 4 for 42. Romeo Dobbs, 3 for 40 and 2 touchdowns. A man's touchdown, if you see the highlights. Tucker Kraft, 2 for 34. Jaden Reed, 5 for 34. Dontavian Wicks, 2 for 14. Spreading the ball around, and this is kind of what Matt LaFleur alluded to. He's like, hey, I hate the term number 1 receiver. We just want a bunch of guys. And this is what it looks like when you got a bunch of guys who can play. Your quarterback's balling out. You're calling a hell of a game. You got a good scheme. You can spread the rock around. Nobody's putting up crazy numbers. And maybe one week this guy puts up crazy numbers. Next week that guy puts up crazy numbers. And then the week after that, everyone just puts up solid numbers. And you just go out and handle business. Edgerrin Cooper, another one of the guys I loved in the draft. He had a big pick, took it back 22 yards. Just looks like a stud out there. But Geno Smith, 15 for 19, 149, no touchdowns and an interception. He got knocked out. Sam Howell, 5 for 14, 24 yards and an interception. They just didn't run the ball, and part of it was they were getting whipped from jump, 14-0 in the first quarter, 20-3 at halftime. But Charbonnet coming off a monster day. Good yards per carry in this game, averaging almost 7 yards per carry, but only 8 carries, 54 yards and a touchdown. And I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, you got to run the ball. You got to run the ball. But Seattle allowed 7 sacks. Green Bay allowed 0. I wish I could see. I'm not going to pull up the chart to see how many times Sam Howell was sacked, because we know Sam Howell will take some fucking sacks. But Green Bay, they go out to the Pacific Northwest. They handle business. They get back in the win column, 10-4, knock Seattle back to 8-6, tighten that NFC West race. Packers put themselves pretty much, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, but put themselves right on the cusp of clinching a playoff spot. Looking real good. Other than those couple Detroit games, well, I guess they looked real good in the last Detroit game. The first Detroit game, rough outing for them. But in the last 2 months, like, Packers just quietly playing some damn good football. So, you know, it really, you look at the Packers, like, can they beat Detroit? But you feel like the way Detroit's defense is just bodies dropping like flies. Like, if Green Bay plays Detroit a third time in the playoffs, I might fuck around and pick Green Bay, man, because they looked real bad in the first game, looked real good, and almost got it done in the second game. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in one season. And we might see it. We might see Green Bay have to go into Detroit one more time. And the way Detroit, again, dropping like flies on the defensive side of the football, Jordan Love and Toyotathon, man, they better hope to God if Green Bay comes back up to Detroit that Toyotathon is over, because Jordan Love might just carve them up like a Christmas goose, baby. Oh, my God. But we'll see what happens with Geno with that injury. It was cornrow Geno, too. I saw him with the cornrows. I'm like, oh, they might make a comeback in this game. And then very shortly thereafter, he was knocked out. So we'll see. I think it's not like he's been playing like all-world ball, but it does feel like they kind of have a much better chance with Geno in the mix than Sam Howell. I don't want to say that ahead of the Vikings having to go out to Seattle and possibly play Sam Howell, but I don't know. Suddenly you go from one of the hotter teams in the league to, oh shit, you might be in trouble. So I don't know. But Green Bay, they get it done, handle business, 10-4 on the cusp, clinching a playoff spot. We'll see how it goes for them, because they suffered a loss to the Eagles, they suffered a loss to Detroit, they suffered a loss to Minnesota. So it's all lined up for them in the playoffs to avenge their key losses throughout the season and try and put together a run to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to count them out. I don't want to see it happen, but I'm not going to count them out. But it's a long episode today. We're coming up on 80 minutes running through the entire slate from Thursday all the way through Sunday Night Football. We got 2 Monday night games tonight, including my Minnesota Vikings hosting the Chicago Bears, wearing the Winter Warrior fits. The first time in history they will not be wearing purple helmets. They will be wearing white helmets, all white uniforms, just a touch of purple, and I forget how they did metallic gray, which to me is silver, but metallic gray for you color aficionados out there. I don't know what the hex code is on that, but metallic gray along with the all white. See if they can get it done. The Vikings win. They will be 12-2, tied with the Philadelphia Eagles, tied with the Detroit Lions, in control of their own destiny to get that number 1 seed. So we'll be back tomorrow on a Let Me Talk to You Tuesday for part 2 of the, what is this, week 15 recap. And we'll talk about those two Monday night games. And then I'm going to bust out the ESPN playoff machine, and we are going to play out a ton of scenarios. We're going to take a look at different teams, their path to the playoffs. We're going to get to the bottom of the NFC West, figure out who's going to win that. We can figure out if the Falcons win tonight, how do the Falcons overtake the Bucs to get back into that mix? Are the Ravens going to win the North? Are the Steelers going to win the North? What's going to happen? Who's going to get it done? Who's going to be the three teams in the AFC wild card? And as always, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, follow on Instagram at Footballhead Show with two S's, at Footballheads Show on Instagram. Please comment below. Tell me what I'm missing about your team. Tell me what I should be talking about with your team. Tell me what the national media Muppets are missing when they talk about your team, if they even talk about your team at all, because they only seem to talk about it 3 to 5 teams, including the Cincinnati Bengals, still for reasons I'm sure I don't know. But like, comment, subscribe, follow, tell all your friends, do all the fun stuff. And until next time, take it easy, football heads.
Move it, football head!